Hey, we're here to talk about The Incredibles on Project Pixar. Is this our fifth? No, this is our sixth film. No, that was an incredible intro.
Sick. Wasn't it? Yeah, I felt the juices. I felt the superhero
Nice. Yeah, you looked like a
inside of me.
superhero. I was actually wondering where
Yeah.
my partner in crime went. I was like, well, who's this masked vigilante here to talk about this movie? So, this is the sixth Pixar film, came out in 2004, and we're just going to dive right in. Favorite character? Noah, who do you got?
The villain, Syndrome, is probably my favorite character in the movie. It's very relatable from like a comic book standpoint. You feel you've been there, like, of worshiping your heroes and kind of following their every move, and you look up to them so much that if you were to meet them in person and they just fail on every level, like, what does that do to your psyche? Like, and Syndrome is that times like 100 of what that would do to somebody. He was probably unstable a little bit to begin with, and then when that happened, it just tumbled from there. But I also really like that this character is very intelligent, like incredibly so. Like, how he had to have been in order to like get all these robots and have this island to himself, and in luring these I imagine they're fairly smart supers to this island and offing them, and his dialogue is fantastic. Jason Lee was a great choice to play him. He's got this kind of childish, mischievous kind of like feel to him, and he's kind of got a squeak to his voice a little bit too.
Yeah.
So he's kind of that like prototypical nerd is there, and he's known for being like, in nerdy properties and stuff like that, but he's evil. Like he is the like a super villain. He pulls that off really well, and Syndrome would be my choice.
Great choice. The dialogue across this entire film is like basically top level Pixar. Syndrome is up there, so for me it's between three people. I got either Syndrome, Bob Parr, or Helen Parr, and I love all of them for many different reasons. Like you said about Syndrome, I've always appreciated how he's still a nerd, but he's genuinely intimidating, and he'll have moments where he's geeking. He even says that, oh my gosh, I'm still geeking out about that. But then you had to go and ruin it. Like, he's so good at just playing those different dynamics. Bob Parr, every time I watch this, I relate more and more to him, especially now that I'm older, like, living that life of being stuck in a job you don't want. And like, the message of him really drove home this last time I watched it, of that, this world wants you to be mediocre and wants you to not be yourself. Like, no, don't be incredible, don't be great, don't remember all these beautiful you should just do this lame job. That is like, no, that's awful. No wonder Bob wants to get out of that. But she's always been my favorite character. I gotta pick Elastigirl, Helen Parr. Kind of similar to Marlon, Helen Hunt, her vocal performance is just great. Again, there's kind of this tension and this desperation of this character that she's really trying to keep her family together. And when things get really intense for her, like, you can tell she's trying to keep these kids under control. She's trying to, keep things like, and then she just her voice is like so conversational. But again, these characters are so in depth and fully explored. Like, you get to see a very adult relationship between her and Bob. Like, she likes being flirty with him. She likes being sexy with him, like, during that whole middle montage. But she has true concerns, too, for her family and her husband. And, like, when she thinks he's having an affair on her, like, to see that, like, almost like her breath is getting caught short. And, like, I want to believe him and I want to trust him. Love that character. She's so intelligent. She's so creative. Like, she's flirty. Like, she's just everything you could. She's just she's a real person. That's what makes her so great. She's such a fully realized person.
Also, real quick, just a quick correction. It's Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunt. What did I say? Helen Hunt. Yeah, Holly Hunter is what I meant to. Yeah, whatever I said earlier, that was wrong. It's Holly Hunter. Thank you. Next up is least favorite moment. I'll be honest, and I'll go ahead and spoil it. This is my favorite Pixar film. It's my absolute favorite Pixar film. So I don't have a least favorite. I just know it's my favorite film. Like it's, I could nitpick a single. You know, I don't know. I could maybe find one scene like, oh, that 1 second, maybe. But it's just like I would just be nitpicking nothing. I would be nitpicking nothing. Like I don't have a least favorite moment. I just don't.
And fair enough. I mean, it's hard for me too, but I would say my only thing is when Bob goes to the island for the first time, the lead in to that is a little slow, like him walking through the jungle and getting to the point. Like just pacing wise, it's a little bit slow. And that's really about it. That's all I really have.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. All right. Next we have some standout animation from this film, Noah.
The first thing that stood out to me was the ice from Frozone, and just like how like the crystallization of the ice and how that was presented. That was definitely that. The stretching of Elastigirl, like the way the powers are displayed for the most part, is really cool and really well presented. And the thing I would also say, like, so The Incredibles has a completely different artistic design and visual identity than anything from Pixar before. It's very stylized, particularly to evoke like the golden age of comic books. I think that it just differentiates it, and it makes it interesting in its own light. At first, when sometimes and I don't know if that's a complaint or not, but sometimes like the visual design with the voices with some of the minor characters can come off a little bit stilted. For instance, there's like an old lady at the beginning with like something like that. Yeah. It does, and just the I guess the way it's delivered or something sounds a little bit off. But that, I don't know if that's more with the design, what they did with the design of the character, or the voice performance. Regardless, that's just a small nitpick. But yeah, no. I mean, and of course, like seeing Dash run across the water with the 100-yard dash scene, and just the way that the speed, like the way that they did it. I mean, there's been like super speed moments on film before, but I remember just feeling like really caught up with how fast everything was moving with the scene, but still able to make things out. So I remember that, and Frozone's Eyes specifically, I think are the two things.
Great choices. I'll never forget. I mean, you thought the water looked good in Nemo. I'll never forget when I saw this, and Bob is like running from Syndrome, and he pops out of the water, and him looking wet was like, oh my god, that looks real. Like, I blew my mind how great that water looked. I mean, I could go on and on about 100 moments, but that is the one on there. I was just like, good gravy, that looks incredible. So, see what I did there?
Yeah. I did see what you did there. What were your first time memories with this one?
So again, at this point, I was totally in on the Pixar brand, and again, like usual, even though like the teaser trailer of this was just like Bob trying to get his costume on, I remember, and like his belt wouldn't fit. And so again, I didn't think the trailer looked, but at this point, I was like, okay, I trust Pixar. They're making good stuff. I'll go see him. And I went and saw it with my buddy Mike Wilson and my girlfriend at the time, Krista, and I mean, it was a full theater. It was like close to Thanksgiving. It was because I'm pretty sure most of their films were coming out in November at that time. And the whole theater just had a blast, and I was just blown away. And Mike, I'll never forget the end of it, just started. He said, incredible. That was incredible. And like the three of us just on the car ride home just couldn't stop gushing to just about how great it was. All the theater laughed together, like just one of those fantastic. And you could just tell everyone afterwards, like, well, that was amazing. Like, blew my mind, man.
So I saw this with my whole family when it came out in theaters. We all went as a family and saw it. The thing that stuck out with me is my older brother. He's a tendency to fall asleep during films. Usually can't make it through, and he actually made it through this entire film. And I just remember I was sitting next to him. I remember him like when the 100-yard dash scene happens, and he starts running across the water, and he like does that. Like just like takes that realization, like, oh yeah, I can really go now. I heard my brother right next to me is like, he's like, that is so cool.
Nice.
And I was just like, it's really just like that resonating moment of like, they are with their art, they're touching people that normally wouldn't see or experience these kind of things. Like the fact that he was so high on it after we left the movie theater, and everybody was just they had a great scene, a great time, and it was just a really fun time at the theater.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up is musical moments. So, what musical moment stands out to you from The Incredibles?
I mean, it's got to be the theme. Like the theme is it's fantastic, but it's incredible too. Superhero themes are really important, and when you make a superhero or a superhero team, you want that theme to pop in your head immediately, and this one is an earworm, and it really immediately does. So kudos, Michael Giacchino, right?
Yeah,
Did this one.
That was, I think this was like his first big breakout. It made us at the end of the credits be like, who composed this? We have to know. We're like, well, we never heard of this guy, and like I think this was like one of his big breaks.
And it was just so the score is really well done, and again, like I love bringing it up with that the 100-yard dash scene. Mm-hmm. The way the music builds up and just is really energetic and fast paced, and it's an awesome score.
I'll cut because that was one of the moments I was thinking of, and the brass section. I've got to hear this played live at the St. Louis Symphony, and afterwards the conductor was like, "How about for that brass section?" Because it's just all these trumpets, and they're just going crazy. And for that 100-yard dash, they're so energetic, and when he hits the water, it cuts out, and you just hear this ding 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 ding, of like it's like little bells or chimes, because you think, oh, he's gonna fall, and he's and then the horns kick back in. Like by far, and I'm gonna say 3 moments where the theme is used so well in different, and one is literally just the logo showing up right at the beginning when they have the little video, the intro, and it ends with Elastigirl saying, "Leave the saving the world to the men, girls." I don't think so. It fades out. I don't think so. And you get bum ba da and the logo comes spinning. I was like, whoa, like that moment. And then when Bob is about to when he's at the office and he's getting grilled by his boss, and he's like, that man's out there, I've got to go save him. And he goes to grab the door, and the boss says, close that door or you're fired. The theme swells up there, fired, and then that makes him stop. And you can tell it's almost like the score is urging him on, yes, be the superhero. Oh, but this stupid stuffed shirt won't let him. And then at the end of the cave scene, when Elastigirl goes to save Bob and she leaves Violet there, and Violet puts her mask on, it plays the theme, but it's very somber.
Yeah.
Like, he just does such an amazing job of, and this, again, he would totally take off as a composer. Like, the music is just, all the music in this.
I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I also really like the score, and I don't know if it's the theme used then, and it might be, but where Bob is in the office listening to the tape from Mirage, and he's looking over all of his accomplishments over the past.
Yeah, the camera pans around him, and the theme swells up for that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's just great. It's just great. Okay, this one could be tough. It's our favorite dialogue.
Yeah.
There's so many I could pick. I'm going to go with one that I know we definitely share this one. And my favorite joke is by far when he goes to see Edna Mode. And she's like, what is it? What do you want? And he lowers his sunglasses and she just says, my God, you've gotten fat. Come on in. Like the way Brad Bird delivers that line. That whole character's there's so many good lines. It always breaks my heart a bit at the end when Bob is, they get back to the city and he wants to go take on this thing. And he can't explain what he's feeling because maybe he doesn't even know. And so he's like, well, no, I got to do this alone. She's like, why? And she's grilling him. And he's like, no, I'm not strong enough. And he's tripping over his own words. And she's like, oh, and this will make you strong. Yes, no. And he eventually just grabs her and says, I can't lose you again. And again, it's that breakthrough moment of that killed me to think that I'd lost you. I can't do that again. Gets me in the heart. But have to give it to the best line, the line that gave me chills in the theater when I heard it was for the first time, and it was when Syndrome has them all captured, and he basically explains his plan to them and says, when I'm rich and I've had my fun, I'll sell my inventions, and that way everyone can be superheroes. Everyone can be super, and when everybody's super, no one will be. Chills. What about you?
Also from Syndrome Bank, I love the moment where he's like, "You slide dog, you caught me monologuing." He has that kind of meta approach.
Yeah, so that was such a great riff on anyone who knew big villains, and that they always want to give these big speeches and everything, and I love that they put a term to it.
I also love the little boy when Bob pulls up to the house, and he's like, well, what are you waiting for? He's like, I don't know, something amazing, I guess. I think it's hilarious when they're coming off the rocket, and they have the they're all packed in the car, and the car shoots off down the interstate. And they're like, "Are we there yet?" And he's like, "We'll get there."
That's such a funny line.
I love that because it's so it's that typical family, but they're going like 200 miles an hour.
Right.
That's really hilarious. No capes.
Yeah.
No capes. And then of course the campfire scene with Elastigirl when she's telling Dash and Violet that let's be serious for a moment. These guys aren't the bad guys on your Saturday morning cartoons. They will not, exercise discretion just because you're children. They will kill you. And just have that. Let's cut the BS. This is life and death. A lot of times, especially with kids movies, they kind of cover over that. They. Well, no, your protagonist is fine. They're never going to be harmed or anything like that. But to be point blank, hey, they will kill you. It's impactful and kind of chilling.
Yeah, great choices, man.
Honey, where is my super suit?
Yeah. We're talking about the greater good. I am the greatest good you will ever get. I
am your wife.
The whole thing is just loaded with gold. Is there anything you would change about it? That's our final question. I can't think of anything, not to get away in my spot, but like I said, it's my favorite film.
Like I said, sometimes the occasional minor character will come across. Her voice will be not fitting, almost to a degree of I know Edna is a guy, right? Mm-hmm. But I also feel like some other characters are guys pretending to be old women, and it doesn't quite gel with me. Mm. That's a nitpick, and that's really about it.
Nothing from me. Incredibles, you get a clean slate. I'll move on to closing thoughts. I mean, I could gush about this film for hours. It has some of the most creative action, especially, and I think this is another thing that drew me to Elastigirl. I don't remember if the Fantastic Four movie came out before this film, or if it came out the year after.
After.
Okay.
Came out in 2005.
But I mean, this film puts that to shame, and I know that's live action with real people, but it's just the creative use of her powers. I'll never forget when she turns into the boat, and they have Dash be the motor to get her in, and her whole breaking into the facility compound, and she's she gets stuck in those doors, and she crawls, and she's got to use her leg and her hand, they are so creative with the use of Elastigirl's powers, all the Dash, the end of the 100-yard dash scene, where it literally ends with him, he stops and loses momentum and then plunges into the water, and that's how he dodged. It's just so clever, and it was so creative.
And picking up Violet and acting like a hamster ball,
it's Syndrome.
Definitely.
Not only is he a great villain, he has a great comeuppance. His death is perfect and ties back into the no capes thing. And it's brutal. If you actually think about that, that's brutal. Everything about the film is great. I love the vibe. Love the little ending when John Ratzenberger comes up as the mole. It's the Underminer. But none of you are beneath me, and then they all put the masks on.
For sure. That's a great point. Seeing the end of this one, I was oh, I want a sequel tomorrow.
Right? Yeah, this is obviously the sequel they ended up
we had
delaying.
to wait 12 years or something like that. But
Incredibles is my favorite Pixar film. It probably always will be. It's hard to see any. I've always been into comic books and superheroes. In case you can't tell from the Spider-Man stuff on my wall. So it just.
Is it Spider-Man?
Right? Yeah. Oh, look, it's Spider-Man. It just really fed into that. I couldn't praise this film enough. Absolutely love it. Noah, anything you want to add?
Great job with just hitting it out of the park with trying something unique with the animated space and something that hadn't really been done before. And Brad Bird will go on to confirm again that he's an amazing director with Ratatouille, which is one of my favorites. And then it's definitely a fantastic, incredible film.
Very appropriate. This film, was for me their coup de grace, the pièce de résistance, and it was just they just kept building and building. It was these guys can do no wrong. Well, if you join us next time, you'll find out that Pixar actually is human. We're going to be looking at Cars next. That is their 7th film. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you then.
Vroom vroom.